recent events. So we're checking in today with Corey Lewandowski from New Hampshire. Corey, thanks for being with us. What's your take on what's happened here in the last few days?
Well, thanks, Howie. Look, you guys know me, Howie. You know my background in law enforcement, first and foremost. As a person who served in the New Hampshire Police Department up here, the fact that we had an officer killed at the U.S. Capitol is disgusting to me. And I've been in the funerals of 3 officers in New Hampshire who were killed in the line of duty, and it's completely untolerated. It disgusts me, to be honest with you. These guys have a tough job to do. And the fact that he died specifically in the line of duty is really troubling to me and troubling to a lot of people around this country, and it should be. So that's the most important thing. And let me say this. I don't tolerate violence, Howie. I was one of those guys who was a Tea Party movement guy, went out and got the permits to protest at the State House in Concord, New Hampshire against the governor and the state legislators who were spending too much money, but we did so in a peaceful way. Do I think people are angry? You bet they're angry. Does that mean that you have a right to go and cause complete chaos and havoc? Absolutely, you do not. Nobody has that right. Not Black Lives Matter, not people who are supporting the president, and not anybody in between.
But that was a handful of people, and it's not being portrayed that way in the media, is it?
But it's not, Howie. And look, just look at the media coverage of what we're seeing. They're calling for Donald Trump to be removed under the 25th Amendment. They're calling for him to be impeached again. Howie, I watched police substations being literally bombed with Molotov cocktails, police cars set ablaze on fire. Nobody called for any Democrat elected official to be removed from office or any accountability. Nobody, when the Black Lives Matter were destroying buildings in Washington, D.C. and marching, no one said that the mayor should resign immediately because the way it's been done. Instead, the media said these were by and large peaceful protesters is what they called them. I want to go right back to what I said just a minute ago, Howie. I do not condone violence on either side of this, but you have to understand something. The media has their own agenda, and that's what happens when they have been dishonest for so long. People stop believing what the media says.
Yeah, I have a hard time watching it at night. It's just depressing. It makes it harder to go to sleep if you watch this stuff. Even if it's not true, it still affects your psyche to watch it. And I don't know. What have you talked to the president lately? How's he handling this latest round of slings and arrows of outrageous fortune?
Well, Howie, what's amazing to me, and I'll tell you this, I've talked to a number of, very candidly, I was in the White House on Tuesday. I spent about 4 hours in the Oval Office having conversations with the president about a litany of things before, obviously, all this transpired on Wednesday. And I've talked to a number of the members of the team since that, including on Wednesday night. What we're seeing is a lot of profiles and coverage. People who've been part of the administration for 3 years, 355 days, deciding, I'm going to leave now. And, I really don't understand. I don't know what they think it's going to do for them. And, the president was very clear, and the team was very clear afterwards. He doesn't condone the violence. He put out a video, I think it was yesterday, saying exactly that. And, the response from the media was it was too little, too late. And it's easy to pile on him because that's what they want to do. And that's what they've been doing for really the last 6+ years since he even talked about running for president.
How about Bill Barr? Let me play. He said the president's conduct yesterday was a betrayal of his office and supporters. He talked about voter fraud and he talked about the intelligence agencies. But this is what he said himself about voter fraud. Cut 35. I just wanted you to react to this.
I think anybody who's watched these events or with
when state governments start adopting these practices like mail-in ballots that open the floodgates of potential fraud, then people's confidence in the outcome of the election is going to be undermined. And that could take the country to a very dark place if we lose confidence in the outcomes of our elections.
But now he says
Bill Barr was... here's the thing, Howie. Bill Barr had the authority to direct the U.S. attorney in Connecticut to release all the information on the fake Russia narrative, the fake Russia hoax, right? File criminal indictments, prosecute the referrals from the Department of the FBI specifically Andy McCabe for lying under oath, and he didn't do any of those things. He did nothing, none of these. And so now he wants to go out and, make these statements. And let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. We know that the mail-in ballot system, as run in most states, was fundamentally flawed. And I know that because it's very simple. When you go back and you look in the 2018 election cycle, of the mail-in ballots that were received in a number of these states, the average, and this is just the average rejection rate of those mail-in ballots was 3%. In the world of COVID, we saw hundreds of thousands of increases in those ballots coming in from the mail.
Millions,
and the
I would say.
rejection rate dropped from 3%, millions. It dropped from 3% to 0.03%. And in, I think, I heard in the state of Pennsylvania, in like 63 counties, there was not one ballot rejected ever. So we know things weren't done appropriately, and that's the frustration of a lot of people.
What about some of these? What about your old friend, General Kelly? General Kelly was saying today that he would vote, if he had to vote in the cabinet, which I don't think he ever did, to remove President Trump under the 25th Amendment. What do you think of General Kelly, your pal?
Look, John and I don't see eye to eye. You got a guy from Lowell and a guy from
Brighton.
from East Boston or something.
Brighton.
Brighton. Just didn't see eye to eye on a number of things, and this is one of those things. I mean, I think we both agreed that we like the Patriots, and other than that, that's about all John and I ever agreed on. But when John told me he was there to save his country and not to serve the president of the United States, he was probably the first chief of staff in modern history to actually be there for all the wrong reasons. And I don't know what he's doing in his career now, but he's kind of faded away, and I respect immensely his service and the service that his family has put forward for this country, and John's entitled to his own opinions. But at the end of the day, he was probably the most politically inept chief of staff to ever serve in that capacity, and that's saying a lot.
I give you a chance to take a shot at Stephanie Gresham, too.
Look, Stephanie's a friend of mine. She's a friend. And by the way, Howie, I hired her 6 years ago on the campaign. And I guess I go back to, I don't understand the value proposition of having served in the administration for 3 years, 355 days, and then saying, oh, I'm leaving now. Does that mean you're going to just wipe all of that off of your resume that you were there? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Tough it out, gut it out. If your plan was to always leave, then that's fine. But to go out and resign and protest and think that's going to make a difference, you're really only kidding yourself.
A lot of people, including myself and most of the viewers and listeners, are frustrated. Are you frustrated, Corey?
Oh, Howie, look, I'm angry. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated. I just left the RNC winter meeting where people down there are frustrated. The Republican National Committee's winter meeting. I was just there this morning. I'm back in New Hampshire now. But people are frustrated. And you know what they're looking for, Howie? They're looking for leadership. And this is where leadership matters. They're looking to find out who's going to actually stop with the hyperbole, stop with the conjecture, and actually come up with a solution. Because I can't look to Washington for that. There's not a leader in Washington, D.C. who I would follow across the street if they told me a car wasn't coming. I just don't see them. And maybe that's a slight over-exaggeration, but not by much. It's very few people who are leaders down there. And as we look to the election in 2022 and 2024, I think you're going to see business executives who have said, I am so tired of career politicians. I'm going to get involved in this. I'm going to hold these guys accountable. I'm going to change the way our system works, because I believe over the next 2 years, we're going to see the most radical shift to the left that we've probably seen in our lifetime, if not ever. The Democrats were very clear what their agenda was going to be if they had the opportunity to take over the White House, the House of Representatives, and the U.S. Senate. They are now there, and they're going to move our country so far to the left that socialism seems to be something that most people have never lived through unless they've come from another country, that they're embracing. And that is a fundamental flaw. And we, as a Republican Party, have failed. And maybe as Americans, we failed.
Are the president and the vice president really at each other's throats?
I can tell you I had a long conversation with the vice president on Tuesday. As you know, Howie, 4 years ago, I served as the chairman of the Vice Presidential Selection Committee for Donald Trump and was the person who recommended, and ultimately the president, then Mr. Trump, chose Mike Pence to be the vice president. Mike Pence is a very, very good, honorable man. And I understand the frustration level that some people have with Mike Pence, but I also had the opportunity to sit down with who I think is a true constitutional scholar, U.S. Senator Mike Lee. And what he explained to me, and I think it was the vice president's position, was no state in the union actually sent multiple electors. In other words, electors who represented both the Republicans and the Democrats. So the Senate, and by extension, the vice president, had nothing he could legally do other than to reject the electors from every state in the country. And that has never been done before. If there was one state that had sent multiple electors and they ratified it through the state, that would be different. But there was not one state in the country that actually certified two sets of electors. And I think that was the president's frustration. I think he was getting bad advice. I can tell you that as I sat in the Oval Office on Tuesday, there was someone on the other end of the phone telling the president that 6 states had sent multiple delegations of electors. And I stopped the person there and I said, look, I don't want to get into an argument with you, but that's just simply not true. Not one state in the country did that. And I think a lot of people were trying to give the president advice that wasn't thoroughly thought out.
So should the president not have attacked him, not have attacked the vice president the way he did at the speech on Wednesday?
Well, look, I think the problem is what was the vice president's authority to change it? And under the Constitution, he didn't have that authority. I understand the president's frustration level. I really do, because he believes, and I think a lot of people believe, that the election was not upheld honestly, it was not held honestly, and there were people who should not have voted that did, and there were votes that were counted that should not have been. And I believe that to be true, and I think a lot of people believe that to be true. And so his frustration level with the vice president came through on Wednesday. But I know Mike Pence, and I know him as a good, honorable guy. I think he was put in a really tough spot. But even if he had objected, it would not have changed the outcome, because there was nothing to object to. That's ultimately the real story, Howie, is there was nothing the vice president could legally do other than to say, all of the results that you have now sent me for all 50 states and the District of Columbia, I'm going to summarily reject and send back to the state legislatures to then recertify. Because you can't just pick and choose which ones you want to pick.
Nikki Haley, what do you think of Nikki Haley today? She said President Trump will be judged harshly by history for his actions since the election.
She gave a speech last night at the Republican National Committee at the event I was at last night. She gave a speech there, and I can tell you it was received less than honorably by the people who were there. Look, Ambassador Haley, as she likes to be called, and has a way of doing that, is a person who requires a lot of what we call maintenance in the business, Howie. She's a high maintenance person, and I don't think she read her audience very well last night at the Republican National Committee. I don't know if you saw the New York Post story on it that they did. It was up on Drudge for a little while this morning, but not a lot of high praise for the ambassador's speech.
With the famous line, "Et tu, Brute," who stabbed Trump in the back most among Republicans, Corey?
Well, look, Howie, it's a long list. Can we start with Adam Kinzinger, the
Illinois
from Illinois, right? Yeah. He's definitely there. But look, he's a small potatoes kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
99% of the world has no idea who he is. And the truth is, I asked the question, Howie, why did the U.S. Senate, and I'm not knocking Ted Cruz or anybody else, Josh Hawley, why did they wait 2 months to try and say, hey, let's go have an investigation into the outcome of this election?
Well, maybe they thought, Corey, that the state legislatures in these Republican states where the election was highly irregular would do something. Maybe they thought the Supreme Court was going to do something, because those are the places where it should have been settled rather than the Senate, aren't they?
100% true. But what you and I have both known of state legislators,
yes,
Howie, not exactly tough. Not exactly profiles encourage some of those guys, right?
No.
These guys are by and large mealy-mouthed, weak-kneed, and I use that term to include all genders, so I don't get in trouble. Howie, I got to include it. You can't say, father and son on the House floor anymore, but I got to include all the genders.
I know. Corey, we got to wrap it up. We're running late, but I really appreciate you being with us, and thank you. Thanks for being with us, and give our best to the president if you see him before I do. Thank you. We're all looking for ways to save money, right? Especially now. So let me ask you this. How'd you like to keep an extra $961 a year in your pocket? That's how much Gabby customers save per year on average on car and home insurance. That's why when I was shopping for insurance, I used Gabby. This is the time of year that we go shopping for insurance. Well, Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance by giving you an apples to apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers. Just link your current insurance account, and in just minutes, you'll be able to see the quotes for the exact same coverage that you currently have. That's what I did. It was fast and easy to use Gabby. I was with my old insurance company through 3, 4 different towns and cities. I lived in cities, and I always had the same insurance company. It went back to my days living in Somerville, and my insurance was outdated, and I hadn't checked it for years. I logged in with my current insurance provider. I saw many different quotes, and I realized quickly that I was overpaying for my car insurance. And you know what was even worse? I had been for 10, 15 years. Gabby saved me hundreds of dollars with a new insurance plan, like I should have done years earlier. Gabby customers on average save $961 per year. I bet that would be nice to have in your pocket every year. If they can't find you savings like they did for me, they'll let you know so you can relax knowing you have the best rate out there. And they'll never sell your info, so no annoying spam or robocalls. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free to check, and there's no obligation. Go to Gabby.com/Howie. That's GABI.com/Howie. GABI.com/Howie. You could save hundreds of dollars. I'm Howie Carr.
The paper boy with a big microphone. Howie Carr.